And I'm delighted to be able to introduce Dr. Danielle Pollock. Danielle will be talking about big picture reviews, benefits, challenges, and future directions. I wish Danielle was speaking straight after lunch because no one would go postprandial while Danielle speaks. She's an amazing speaker. Danielle is a research fellow at Health Evidence Synthesis, Recommendations and Impact, a concisely named centre in the School of Public Health. She's helped develop the JBI Scoping Review Network, is actively involved in JBI Scoping Review Methodology Group, GIN ANZ working groups, and is passionate about taking the guesswork out of evidence synthesis. So feel free to sit down now and please welcome Danielle to the stage.
He's put all these expectations that I'm an engaging dynamic speaker. I'm not. I'm just going to ask. This is the chat where I'm pretty much going to put it all on you. So I hope you don't mind, but I'm actually going to start off with a question of what you think big picture reviews are. If anyone can just yell out what they think a big picture review is, or what we mean by it. Scoping? Excellent. Anyone else think it's anything else? Evidence gap maps? Anyone want to yell out another final answer? Well, I can teach you something at least. But they are correct, those people that called out. Big picture reviews do talk about scoping, big mapping reviews, and evidence and gap maps. So what I'm going to really be talking to you about today is what are big picture reviews? Give a nice definition if I can. How do big picture reviews differ from each other? Why do we actually even need them? And why are they important? But the last bit is the bit that I'm going to need the most engagement from, where I'm really going to need you to help us, because we're at a crucial junction when it comes to big picture reviews and what we do next. And so I need the room of experts to help us. So, what are big picture reviews again? Scoping reviews, mapping reviews, and evidence and gap maps. Basically, we call them big picture reviews because they often have a broader scope and a broader question to what you will have in a systematic review. A systematic review often involves a comparator, or should involve maybe a comparator and an outcome, and that honestly helps define the research question. But when you have that type of more narrower research question that's needed for a systematic review, that differs to questions that require more of a broader scope with a broader question. That impacts a lot of things. It impacts the questions that we're asking. It impacts what evidence that we actually include. It impacts how we even appraise, or if we even appraise the evidence, and how we analyse the evidence to how we present it, but also the resources. I often get this comment told to me: scoping reviews are easier than systematic reviews, or mapping reviews are easier than systematic reviews, evidence and gap maps are easier than systematic reviews. I just want to put it out there. No. No. Anyone that has done any type of big picture review will tell you the sheer enormity of them. So they require different resources. They are not harder, they are not easier than a systematic review. And if anyone tells you otherwise, you sit them down and you tell them no. But there remains confusion about what big picture reviews are. There remains confusion about how we do them the best way. There remains confusion on their meaning, their definition, and whether even differences actually exist between big picture reviews. So we are at that critical junction where systematic reviews have reached a period of blessed maturity, where all the hard work has been done. I say that jokingly. But a lot of the methodological how-tos have been confirmed. We haven't reached that in big picture reviews. There's most since 2005 when we had a lot of scoping review methods actually come out. So we are still in a period of the pimply adolescent child, and that's why we need your help. So how do big picture reviews differ? Why are they different? Why have we separated them out? Why haven't we just called them all scoping reviews or all mapping reviews or all evidence and gap maps? And I'm not going to lie, there are definitely similarities. Now that QR code will take you to that infographic so you can have it on your phone. So we developed this infographic to really break down those differences between these big picture reviews because it was a challenge in trying to explain the differences. So what you'll find is that there is generally a similar purpose in basically trying to find what is the available evidence. Now that goes across from scoping reviews, mapping reviews, and evidence and gap maps, but there's differences in those as well. So for example, when you're having a scoping review, you're most likely going to want to know maybe characteristics or concepts, factors. So the difference of purpose also then influences the question. And now we say broad question. This is broad question compared to a systematic review, but what about to each other? So for us, a scoping review is a narrower research question compared to a mapping review, which is what is the available evidence? But a scoping review might be going, well, what are the outcomes in that particular field? And an evidence and gap map will probably provide us what is the available evidence, but maybe from a particular sector or even subsector. But that is quite large, broader than what we would say a mapping review is. All of them most likely include different evidence sources, and this is where scoping reviews and mapping reviews and evidence and gap maps really truly shine, because we include everything. But that's also why they're massive and take a lot of resources as well. So we'll include books, blogs, web pages, qualitative, quantitative, discussion papers, all in the one type of review. That impacts on things like extraction as well. Now, a scoping review for us can be very detailed extraction. And as anyone who has maybe heard about our evidence synthesis taxonomy initiative scoping review, we have done quite a lot of detailed extraction. However, mapping reviews and evidence and gap maps may be that high level detail. Yes, no responses, for example, preconceived responses. And the evidence and gap map is you're actually developing a code to be able to extract to. That evidence and gap map already may have a predefined code, or it may be something that you as a team need to develop. But higher level extraction than what you'd get in a scoping review. And the analysis would also differ as well. So we, compared to a systematic review, don't do meta-analysis. So no to meta-analysis in scoping reviews and mapping reviews and evidence and gap maps. But what you'd see the difference again is mapping, evidence and gap map, because they did higher level data, are actually more doing frequencies. Scoping reviews also doing frequencies, but we're also maybe doing some basic qualitative content analysis because we're going to be extracting potentially more textual data. And then we come down to the presentation of results. Scoping reviews can be death by table. They don't have to be, but they are. While evidence and gap maps and even mapping reviews can develop these very beautiful online interactive visual maps of the available evidence, which are very powerful to policymakers and decision makers. So that's how they differ together. So why do we need them? Well, the simple answer is systematic reviews can't answer every single question. There are questions such as what information is out there, what policy documents already exist, what strategies and outcomes are being used, what methodological approach is being used, what guidelines are out there, how are the guidelines developed, what's the methodological approaches to implementation. Those aren't systematic review questions that require us to be able to understand causation, association. These are descriptives, but they help us build knowledge, needed knowledge. And that's why we need big picture reviews? Because they require, as I said, different ways of doing. And the way we propose to do any of these 3 different types of reviews is through a transparent and rigorous methodology. Next question I get always asked: are systematic reviews more superior to mapping reviews? No. I get really angry on that one, get really passionate. Because again, they're just asking different things, so require different requirements. It's as simple as that. No better, no less. So why are they important? Why are they important to our policymakers, our decision makers? We heard that this morning, that we need to be better connected to our policy and our decision makers and to our funders. Well, big picture reviews are perfect for funders, decision makers, and policy makers, because often they're asking the sorts of questions. What guidelines are out there? How are they measuring these things? They help them to contextualize the information. So we know that big picture reviews are very, very good at identifying research gaps. Now that's great if you've got a funding body going, what's already been funded and what should we fund next? What evidence is already out there and what evidence needs to be out there? It gives a quick assessment of the available literature, and for those evidence and gap maps, a very beautiful interactive online table which can be made publicly available. We also know that they can examine how research is conducted, but interestingly, I was able to go to the Guidelines International Network Conference in Glasgow this year, and the amount of scoping reviews that were being presented at that conference was astronomical. All of a sudden, people are finding a role for scoping reviews in the guideline development process. People are seeing it as a potential first step to, I said, find out what guidelines are out there, what can be adapted, what could be adopted even. That could potentially save hundreds of thousands of dollars if you suddenly find a guideline that's already in existence. They're able to understand the breadth of the available evidence, and that will help with them with the prioritization of review questions that they need to be able to develop the guidelines. They can identify the contextual factors that they'll need to understand, and they'll also be able to find potential strategies for implementation. If there's already implementation strategies out there, that helps for that next step past the guideline process. Now, we all wish that money was unlimited. We would all love to know that we could just constantly access it, but it's not possible. And we are constantly battling, are we going to get funding? Well, big picture reviews can allow for that assessment of what is available, what is needed. And that is efficient use of a limited resource before you commit to a full project. So that's why it is so important. And the simple fact is that they're not going away. Now, I just did a quick PubMed search. Nothing of this is evidence-based. I just want to highlight that first, which is hilarious at an evidence-based conference. But a quick PubMed search found, just with the mesh term scoping review, the growth that we can see. And I've also pinpointed when ARCSI and O'Malley in 2005, the JBI guidance, and then when the JBI version 2 guidance. And you can see the peak. We've also got mapping reviews steadily increasing as well. And look at evidence and gap maps. So we are seeing that these big picture reviews are becoming popular. If we think alone just on JBI Scoping Review, our Scoping Review Network webpage that was developed in 2020 has had over 181,000 views. The resources that we have developed have been downloaded over 19,000 times since 2020. So our network, which is our JBI Scoping Review Network membership, has over 1,600 members in our network alone. That is a huge interest in a methodology. So they are not going away, but we need to improve them. As I said, We're going through the adolescent, pimply teenager stage. We've all been there. So we need some help because we're experiencing some growing pains. We need to know what we need to do as our next steps. And that's why we're going to need your help. Now, I need everyone to get their phones out, which is, I know, a faux pas for many of us at a conference, but I desperately need you to do that now. Because I'm going to get you to go onto Slido. I'm sure, so I think this was used in another presentation. So I need you to help me answer some questions. This is meant to be all live. Hopefully this all works, guys. But I need to know, what challenges do you experience when conducting big picture reviews? What are your challenges? We got 5. Oh, it works. So excited. Time. Yes, the other question I get is scoping reviews take less time than a systematic review. That's false. We've got large amount of screening, data analysis, access to software, too many papers. Wow, we've got some real problems, don't we? And it keeps going, reviewing 100,000 types. Is that 100,000 or 10,000? My eyes are a bit, whew. How to decide which type of big picture review. It keeps going and going. And as you can see up there, it's actually kind of quickly collating what is the most common responses that we're receiving here. So data, the fact that they're large, access, volume, review, information. There is a lot. And all of these responses are helping. I bet there's someone just going, everything. Funders don't understand the difference. Yes. Wow, this keeps going. This is way more engagement than I thought I was going to get. So as we can see, we've got a lot of challenges that we need to address. And we need to be able to make this clearly understood, transparent, and rigorous, because otherwise we face an issue where we're increasing the research waste with poor reviews, right? We're potentially increasing the bias that's out there, the misinformation that's out there. So we need to take action and ensure that we can improve big picture reviews. Now, I'm sorry, I know some of you are probably still going, but I'm going to do another exercise. Editors, peer reviewers don't understand. Yes. So there's a lot out there that never end. I already have one that's from 2020 that will probably never end. So yes, I understand that one. So we're going to go to the next Slido. I'm going to help you let you rank. So what areas do we need the most methodological clarity on? I think it should hopefully come up now with your Slido. And I'm going to let you rank these. So I've tried to break down all of these, of the steps within a big picture review. And I want you to kind of rank what we need to be able to ask the most methodological questions. So we're seeing this all move, hopefully. Don't know, does it go down the screen? Oh no, there's just because no one presented it. I see the critical appraisal review level. What I mean is that, do we need to develop a risk of bias tool for the scoping review, mapping review, and evidence and gap map themselves? So just like ANSTAR or ROBUS, do we need that for big picture reviews? Wow, getting there. I think what we're finding is that all of it needs help, which for the members of the scoping review group, we've got some work to do. But we're seeing issues in protocol development, question knowledge user engagement, nice to know abstraction, not so bad, just the fact that it's big. So these are all the issues that we're currently been facing, and hopefully this will guide us to know that we basically just have to keep going. All right, the next question. Sorry, I'm turning it to the next one. Get your answers in, because I can look at this afterwards. And also like to know that when I put a survey out next year, I hope all of you are going to respond just as much as you responded here. All right. So my next question that I have is, what methodological questions are next steps do we need to answer to best help you in conducting and reporting a big picture review? We've thought about our challenges. We thought about just ranking the process itself. That didn't give us any clear ideas because apparently all of us needs help. But do you have any key methodological questions that you feel we need as a scoping review and mapping and evidence and gap map groups need to manage? What do we need to do to be able to help you, to help our community, to help your PhD students, to help you as a supervisor? So we've got rapid scoping review guidance. You'd like to know this, but that's actually in review. When to choose one approach over another, how to translate the complexity of findings to plain language, appraisal, data analysis, how to choose between the three types. I think we're getting there. We need to be better at being able to go, these are the three types. Develop a decision tool maybe? Would a decision tool help? Yeah. Data synthesis to clarify the different types. So we're getting a big thing here. So finding the differences. How do you choose between a scoping, a mapping, an evidence and gap map? And we had hoped that the infographic would help in some way, but I think we maybe need to put that further into an actual XYZ decision tree. Okay. This is helpful for us. How to develop the review question is also something that we've put as a needed thing that we need to address as well. Okay. So I feel like there might be a lot of questions to me. So I'm going to stop this here as well. But thank you for helping us, because we are hoping to do quite a lot more research in this area to be able to assist us to provide methodological guidance. But as you can see, is that we've got a lot of work to do, don't we? We're still at that maybe infancy stage. Maybe we haven't hit the adolescent stage yet. Maybe we still need to keep on doing our work here. AI, that's going to be a big one as well. And I'm looking at Hanan Khalil because she's been writing a paper on that as well. So just a bit of a call out. Join our Scope and Review network. Our network is hoping to become a collaborative space that will be able to inform you about what's currently happening with newsletters. We do webinars. We've done webinars where we've then had networking opportunities afterwards. We answer questions which you may have about big picture scoping reviews in particular. But please, please join our network, because then that will allow us to be able to still connect with you all and to develop that community. And this is the webinar, and this is my thank yous. Thank you. But I'll go back. Sorry for going over time.
Well, it's great timing, and what a dynamic talk. Thank you so much, Danielle. Just come over a little bit closer. We've got time.
I don't
for
want the height difference
questions.
to be on camera.
Oh, I'll sit down.
That's much appreciated.
I've got a few questions on screen, but also we have roving mic because we want you to have the opportunity to ask your immediate questions as well. All right, we're going to start with the app.
Oh, God.
Some folk, so this is a question from the US or North America, I would say, because of the word folk. Some folk add the word systematic before scoping review to the title of their manuscript. Is this okay, or is it just to impress the editor?
Probably just to get through. No. So in our latest guidance of JBI, we actually discussed the fact that we had dropped the term systematic from scoping review, because it used to be systematic scoping review, just because it was like, we know that it's a transparent and systematic and rigorous approach. We don't need to state that it's a systematic one as well, because it's kind of implied with the method that you chose using JBI's methods.
Okay, so a peer reviewer or an editor could just make a minor comment back to the author.
Exactly. You could even refer them back to our guidance and say, well, that's the reason why we've moved systematic.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to move to logistics. There's a saying, what is it? Amateurs talk strategy, experts talk logistics. So, scoping review logistics. How many databases must one... I can laugh because I'm the idiot that asked the question. How many databases does it take to search to qualify as a scoping review?
How long is a piece of string? That's the question. No. It depends, I suppose, on the resources that you have, but also go back to what the systematic review requirements are. More than one, more than two, probably. So we're looking at more than two. There's no real requirements. Just make sure you search across the relevant databases.
Yeah.
One is not enough, though.
All right, hear that, folks? One is not enough. Any questions from the floor? Just pop your hand up. Okay, thank you.
Hi, thanks, Danielle.
Oh, no.
Just a quick one. Thinking about this and since you present, if you move back a bit in time, there are, what we used to call a systematic review in some instances, now we call a scoping review. It serves that purpose that we used to use the label systematic review for. Terminology's chopped and changed quite a bit. And looking there, it's seemingly what we're now attempting to call a mapping review, might, if I wind back a few years, might have fit we would have called a scoping review, and now it's nuanced again. I find it fascinating, but for the actual person deciding what should I be doing and what do I call my work to answer my question, are we just making things more confusing?
No, because I think what we're trying to do, and we're trying to do this with the evidence synthesis taxonomy initiative that Zach is leading as well, is provide clarity, but also to show the fact that there's importance in each methodology and each approach, and that we can't dilute it. And that's what potentially was happening when we were calling something a systematic review and it's a scoping review. We're diluting the importance of both of those then. So that's why we're saying call it for what it is. Now, the mapping and scoping reviews is interesting, and that's something that we're still talking about. I can see why some people would call it a mapping review, a scoping review, and a scoping review, a mapping review, because they are trying to set, you can theoretically answer the question, what is the available evidence of both? But then you've got to look down to the level of extraction that you'll then be taking, and if you're going to be also answering more than one question in that as well. So if you're just interested in what is the available evidence, doing some high level data, then that's a mapping review. But if you're going to go, I want to know what the available evidence is, but I also want to know what the characteristics, the concepts of those are, and I'm going to probably do some more textual extraction, or extract more textual data, then that's a scoping review. So I think there's importance because there are separate methodologies there. And if you look back to that chart that I just kind of briefly put together, mapping reviews seem to be more popular than scoping reviews at the start. So it's only just recently. So the terms, I think, have switched a bit.
Okay. We have a question up the back. Can we get a microphone?
Thanks, Danielle. Just to add, don't know whether you've added in your presentation or not, but normally mapping reviews, they're based on a framework. So when you actually come and do the data analysis, they usually have a framework, and then you organize your data according to that framework, whereas a scoping review, it's optional. And there is a paper, just to follow up from what Ed just mentioned, there is a paper it's about to get published, hopefully by the end of the year, that we've looked at all the mapping reviews, and we found that there was actually a mix-up between mapping reviews, scoping reviews, and evidence gap maps.
There definitely is a mix-up between the three, and we acknowledge that.
And we looked at 300 reviews or so, but normally mapping reviews, they're really driven by framework.
Okay, thank you, Hanan. That's a great comment. I think we've got time to squeeze in one more question. Is there a danger of big picture reviews being used maybe inappropriately to develop guideline recommendations or as an alternative to systematic reviews?
I think big picture reviews are already being used incorrectly. We're seeing that with how we see scoping reviews trying to answer questions of feasibility, appropriateness, meaningfulness, and experience. It is not designed to answer those questions. That is a systematic review question. So we're already seeing that danger in there, but that means that speaks to us, and therefore going into guidelines through that process. So that speaks to us that we need to be very clarifying and create more methodological guidance so that we can avoid, or put out as much information as possible to avoid that scenario from happening.
Well, what a fantastic and engaging session. Put your hands together again for Danielle, please. Thanks, Ed.